So I'm holding here the champagne of beers.
Only the best.
Is this changed into too much beer?
Hey, that's okay. Look, it's the best cheap beer.
I drank all the coffee during the interview, so we switched to the champagne of beers. All right, hit the music. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Too Much Coffee, episode 14.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, if you haven't listened to episodes 1 through 13, what are you doing with your life? You come in episode 14? Well, now
True.
I've just given you a reason to go back and check out the back catalog.
Why?
Look.
That's like coming into an anime in the middle of the series.
Yes, that's a little, what do you call that? Foreshadowing. I'm an artist, so I think the artist word has come to mind. Foreshadowing. Our guest today is the inimitable Matt St. Jack from Anime Talks. Now, this is not an anime channel, but, you know, I've watched a little anime in my time.
I do like anime.
Grew up, Dragon Ball Z and all that kind of stuff, Rurouni Kenshin, Naruto, all that stuff that a person my age might know. So we had a very good conversation with Matt. It was a lot of fun. I think you're going to enjoy it a lot. We'll have that coming up in just a minute. But you know what? I always like to go through a few news stories. So let's see what I got today to talk about. I found this website. Somebody asked me if I knew my IQ. Do you know your IQ? Have you ever taken an IQ test?
No.
Yeah, me neither. And I said, I don't know my IQ. I've never taken an IQ test, and I don't want to know what my IQ is.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean anything anyway.
Because it's not a part of my life, and I don't want some sort of IQ-related neurosis because I know my number. But anyways, I ended up finding this website. It says Stephen Hawking's IQ and how yours compares to his and other famous person's IQ. I mean, they got people like Abraham Lincoln in here. How do you know Abraham Lincoln's IQ?
You don't. You just
They
guess.
have IQ tests back in the 1860s? Did Abraham Lincoln take an IQ test when he was in school?
Actually, no. I think they came about in the 19th century.
Actually, here's the history of the IQ test.
Technically, it started with the French teacher.
If you had to guess Abraham Lincoln's fake IQ, what would you say?
150.
You're being very generous. They gave him a 128.
Oh, okay.
How about Herr Adolf Hitler, the Führer? What do you think his IQ would be?
120, I guess.
Herr Hitler blows Abraham Lincoln out of the water. 141. 141 is like genius level IQ.
Well, look, it is a website about IQs. So,
I mean, how smart was he? Sent all those troops to Russia in the winter. How smart was that? Al Gore, 134. Albert Einstein, 160. Of course, they're going to give Albert Einstein a high IQ. What are you going to say? He's 120?
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, an IQ test is just a test. Your score is just how good you did on that test.
What do you think Andy Warhol gets? High or low?
400. Kidding.
Gee.
I bet like 130. I bet he got high.
How about 86?
86. There you
They're
go.
giving him
Now
an
we're talking.
86. Now he was around late enough that he might actually have taken an IQ test at some point, or maybe they're just making that up. I assume this is all just made up.
Well, yeah.
Who else is on the list? Galileo, 185. 185. Was he speaking 3 languages by the time he was 5 years old? That's 185 level IQ.
I guess he was pretty smart. But
Okay, there's a 205, somebody that nobody's ever heard of. Anyway, this is crazy. I mean, it's just I'm just scrolling right now. Name after name after name. It says Shakira has an IQ of 140. It says Sharon Stone has an IQ of 154.
interesting.
Wow.
I mean, I guess it's possible that some of these people did take some kind of test. But
Sharon Stone may be brilliant. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I only know as an actress. I don't want to talk about the crypto thing. It's just I don't want to say it.
the dig button NFTs.
Yeah, you say it. What is that called?
What is it?
You see it. The only crypto thing on the page.
Crypto dig butts.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you can hear the train.
Yeah,
in the
go get one
background.
now. There are only 5.2 thousand of these NFTs available to buy. Oh, God. Out of here.
Hey, if you PayPal me $100, I'll give you a bargain. I'll just send you the JPEG, buddy.
So did you ever think you'd hear John Wick and Mel Gibson in the same sentence for any? I mean, why would you?
I did not.
But I guess there's gonna be a John Wick spinoff series because milking. What? 3 movies? Is it 3 movies?
I think there's been 3 movies so far. Yeah.
1 was enough. 2 was pushing it. 3 was too much.
I know I've seen one of them.
Did you see? Probably the first one, right?
Maybe. Now that I said that, it's like I know I've seen it, but I don't remember anything about it.
Well, the first John Wick movie is great. It's just a tight, simple action movie. I mean, if the killing bothers you, this is not the movie to watch because he shoots over 100 people easily. But it's tight. It's sort of perfectly executed. Keanu did a lot of training with a gun, so he looks very believable on screen. It's just a great movie. The second one is good. It is not as good, but it's good. The third one is not good. It's probably not terrible. It's not an awful movie. It's watchable, but it's got none of the magic that the first 2 had. But anyway, this series is going to be the John Wick cinematic universe. Oh my God! Not everything can be Marvel.
Look, they gotta milk it, man.
We've got the MCU and the DCU. That's it. Okay, quit with the cinematic universes. The upcoming John Wick spinoff series will not include Keanu Reeves, but will feature Colin Woodle. I don't know who that is, and Mel Gibson at the heart of a story about the Continental. Takes place in the 1970s. A short venture. Blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. Whatever. There you go. TV show.
Boom.
I mean, the Continental was kind of cool.
When you said Mel Gibson, I just imagined him being like old John Wick.
And looking nothing like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He has to come. I got to come back out of retirement one more time.
Also, I got a lot of plastic surgery like 30 years ago.
They killed my goldfish. And now they're going to pay. Did you see him, Mel Gibson swinging that sledgehammer, I got to break this floor open one more time, get my guns and my gold. And he has to take 4 or 5 breaks. He's like, whew. I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm no spring chicken. Whoo, God. Oh, I need some lemonade. Help me. So anyway, there you go. Who cares about John Wick? I told you I tried to listen to some Robert Pattinson music.
Yeah.
The Batman's coming out. The Batman music's coming out. Movie's coming out next month. And when I first heard about it, I had zero interest. And maintained zero interest for a long time until that first trailer came out and I watched it and I was like, oh, it looks pretty good. I don't know. Yeah. I know it's Batman. It's like, what could be more boring than another Batman movie in principle? But I don't know. I looked at it and I thought the first trailer was interesting enough. And I saw a couple other trailers after that and read a little bit of the news. And you're like, oh, this trailer is good too. This trailer, it looks really good. And you see, what's his face? Robert Pattinson is beating people down, and he's looking. I'm believing him on this. Just in the trailer, I'm believing him as like a messed up Batman.
I can see Robert Pattinson. I haven't watched anything about the Robert Pattinson Batman, but I can see it in my head. I can see him killing it. Honestly,
as much as I loved Michael Keaton as Batman, he always seemed a little too well adjusted.
Yeah.
Batman, I don't think should be well adjusted. I think Batman should.
Well, yeah.
I mean, you could say you got a screw loose if you're going to do something like that.
I mean, yeah.
But
if you're gonna be Batman, you'd be a little crazy.
Yeah. There's something. For lack of a better term, there's something wrong with you if you decide to become Batman, because 99.99% of humanity would never even dream of doing something like that, nor would they have the willpower to pursue it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Batman is a unique human being. So when you see Michael Keaton just exudes like, I don't know. He was pretty good as the Vulture though in that Spider-Man movie. Did you see that?
I have not seen it.
Very believable, psychotic bad guy on there. But anyway, Robert Pattinson is strolling around like a Batman I'd be interested to see.
Yeah.
Like I want to see his version of Batman.
I can see it in my head.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll watch it eventually at some point.
And then I start reading about the cast, and it's like, ooh, the cast sounds really good. And then you see Colin Farrell is the Penguin. What? Yeah,
Interesting.
Okay. All right. Then you're thinking
Well,
back.
yeah, you
I'm
told me
thinking
that.
back to all the Penguins of the past. Okay. Burgess Meredith. If you don't know the name, think back to Rocky. You're a bum, Rock. A bum. That's Burgess Meredith. He was the Penguin in the old Adam West series in the 60s. Okay.
Yeah.
Fat with the big cigarette.
Yep.
She's only got a cigarette in his mouth, chomping on a cigarette with the top hat and the umbrellas. I almost said balloons. The umbrellas. And then you've got what's his face, Danny DeVito. Again, same template. Batman the Animated Series. We watched that growing up. Same template. Penguin. And then you're like, Colin Farrell. It's like, well, are they changing the look of the Penguin? It's like, well, no, not really. They just did so much work on the guy that he doesn't even look like the same person. They did all this makeup work on him. I'm looking at this website like, oh my God, you can't even tell who this is.
It's an interesting choice. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but he's let me think about it if this is true. I almost reflexively said he's a great actor. He's a very good actor.
Colin Farrell's good.
Yeah, he's great. So I'm really interested to see. So anyway, it's just all this stuff added together, and I'm like, all right, I'll watch one more Batman movie. I'll watch one more. But then I learned. So I read the story, and it said that Robert Pattinson, the way he would sort of unwind on set, you're on set all day, and you got to wait around and stuff. You need something to do, and so he would go with the cowl on. He'd go into his trailer, and he'd work on his music. Like, apparently music is extremely important to him. He said after he was on Harry Potter, he used all that money to just like chill and make music.
Interesting.
He has a song, at least one song on the Twilight soundtrack. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to go.
Know that.
Yeah. And so I'm going to go listen to some Robert Pattinson music. And I found some YouTube video where supposedly they say this is a collection of Robert Pattinson's music. And it started, and I listened to 2 minutes of it. And it's like, oh gosh.
Interesting.
I guess the guitar playing is pretty good.
Yeah.
But I just can't listen to it. It is so, I don't want to call it boring because it's not a nice, I don't care about being nice to him, but it's not for me. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
I was bored to tears. And I should have listened to much more than just, one song, but I got the distinct impression based on that one song that Robert Pattinson's music is not my cup of tea.
I may have to give it a listen. Interesting. Yeah.
Very slow, very mumbly, very coffee house, very emotional. It's Twilight in a song. That's exactly what. And maybe he made it. Maybe that song was made specifically for Twilight, and that's why he did that. So maybe I'm not even being fair to Mr. Robert Pattinson. He may have like some EDM classics that I really like to create gangster rap and electronic dance music. But I did this acoustic crap for Twilight because they asked me to.
I mean, it could be when you say Robert Pattinson music, it makes me think of that picture of him. I guess he's friends with like the guys in Death Grips. And then went to see Beyonce at a show, and he went backstage and got a picture. So you have a picture with like the Death Grips guys and Robert Pattinson and Beyonce. It's this really weird, surreal picture.
Who's Death Grips?
Rap group.
Oh.
Very like aggressive kind of experimental rap group.
Okay.
Not the sort of band you think you'd sort of associate with Beyonce or Robert Pattinson.
Don't let me forget. I've got to find something by them and put them in the show notes.
Yeah.
I'll put a link to a Death Grips song. Kevin will
I'll
give
send
me
you one.
Yeah, Kevin will send me one, and I'll put a link to the show, and we'll all listen to Death Grips together because it's new to me too.
Picture. I'll just show it to you real quick.
All right, I'm looking at this picture. Oh my God, look at his face, leaning in with the biggest grin on his face. Beyonce looking young. That one guy looking like a straight up killer. The guy on the edge is like, I don't even want to be in this picture. He's trying to edge out a frame.
Yeah.
The other guy looks high as a kite or drunk or something. That's a great picture. We need to put that picture up. Oh, don't let me forget. Let's put that picture out on Twitter too.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
We'll post that. That's good. Did you watch any of the Super Bowl and Super Bowl halftime show?
I did not, but I heard a lot about it.
What did you hear?
I guess it was good. Had Dr. Dre and Eminem. But I didn't actually watch it or anything. As always, I'm out of the loop.
Well, I didn't even know about the Super Bowl until the day before, or maybe the morning of.
Yeah.
Like, the Super Bowl's tonight at 6:30. And maybe I'm old enough to where the Super Bowl still has magic to it. It's like, oh, well, I don't watch football, but I'll watch the Super Bowl. But I think I still read that like 100 million people watched it. So a lot of people still watch the Super Bowl. Even though all the political, NFL, whatever crap. I don't know. The Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. I think it's cool to watch the Super Bowl. So whatever. I watched the first half of the game, and then I watched the halftime show. And the halftime show was good.
Yeah.
I found out they don't even pay the performers.
Oh, that's interesting.
The NFL pays for the show.
Yeah.
The stage, the setup, and all that stuff, but they don't pay the performers. They do that classic thing that people do to musicians to take advantage of them, which is that we're paying you an exposure.
Of course.
Except in this case, I guess there's actually something to it because every time somebody does the Super Bowl, their record albums, their sales soar for a while and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But we live in a time
at
of
the same time,
cheap streaming, not record sales. So,
they get more streams, I guess.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, it feels like anybody's going to be performing at the Super Bowl is going to be nobody. It's going to be Dr. Dre.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, the set it looks like a neighborhood, it almost looks like neighborhood houses side by side.
Yeah.
It was both. The set was both. It was really wide, but there was something that felt really small about it, and maybe it was because you're watching these small facade, small fake houses, and there's something that feels like a miniature about them. But in the midst of that, in the midst of this stadium that holds 72,000 people, it just looked small. But anyway, it was good. The thing that rappers have figured out in general is that they don't do their entire songs. They'll do like a verse and a chorus, and then they'll move to the next song, which is how they did the show.
Yeah.
So, it had Eminem, it had Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar was the worst part by far. His music just had it didn't have the same, it didn't hook like everything else. I mean, Dr. Dre's like a classic, beat, hit maker. So it's going to be hard to stand up against him, but 50 Cent was a surprise guest. They're doing the music and they're performing, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden 50 Cent is hanging upside down like a bat.
Like that old music video.
And at first, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
At first you're like, wow, he's fat.
Yeah.
Like fat. You don't think of 50 Cent as being fat. You just think of him as being strong, big.
Yeah.
So he's hanging. I'm like, wow. My first thought is, why is he hanging like a bat? My second thought was, wow, he's looking pretty fat. But then you look closer and you're like, well, he's shaped exactly like a V. No, he's just gigantic. He's just more gigantic than I've ever seen him in my entire life. Just a complete monster. So, the show was good. Snoop, of course, was good. Dre was good. Kendrick Lamar was boring, but he just had one little small section of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Eminem, of course, was good. 50 was good. Mary J. Blige. I don't know where they've been keeping her. I haven't heard about her since 1998 or something. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. It's a good show. All right. So I guess that's all the news I wanted to hit on today. Look, we're gonna go ahead and jump into this interview with Mr. Matt St. Jack, the host of Anime Talk. Some of you don't listen to anime. I mean, watch it. I'm not particularly an anime watcher. Like, I don't watch a ton of anime, but I've seen some anime in my time. And I think even if you're not an anime watcher, you'll enjoy the conversation that we had because we talked about the anime as an industry. We talked about, what makes anime interesting, what turns people off about it, and we just get into a fun conversation. So without any further ado, enjoy our interview with Matt St. Jack from Anime Talk. Appreciate you being on the show, man.
Hey, I appreciate the invite. I always love jumping on other shows, so I was like, yeah, I can't wait.
So why don't you tell me about your show a little bit? Tell me how it got started.
So my name is Matt. Obviously, I go by Matt St. Jack. It was just a funny name I came up with a long time ago, and it just kind of stuck.
By the way, I would have invited you on based only on that name.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I love it.
I can't even remember what I was. I can't. A long time ago, I feel like I was talking to somebody, and I used that name. It was probably like I don't know. Knowing me, it was probably like back in the day when I was getting ready to like like I got catfished by a girl. I just made up like a last name or something like that or something. I don't know. But yeah. So I came to the name stuck or whatever. So I used it for the show. But my show is called Anime Talk. So to your point, I decided to make this show. But yeah, I started the show not last year, the year before. So it'll be coming up on 2 years.
Okay.
I'm huge off into anime, love anime. I've been watching anime since I was like 17. I'm 32 now for reference. And got into it. You know, I had a friend of mine that just kind of took me up under his wing and was just like, yo, I watched the show, and he was like, that seems dope. I was like, well, I like this show. What happened? What is it about? And he's like, you got to start at the beginning, man. You started halfway through. You got to start at the beginning. And I just got hooked ever since, man. And so a buddy of mine told me that he thought I had a really good voice for, podcasting / radio. And then he was like, and you know a whole lot about anime, so why not go ahead and put those together? And voila, here we are almost 2 years later on my show.
Yeah,
cool. Right on.
What kind of animes do you think you started with when you were just getting into it?
The first one that I watched to completion was Bleach. It was the first one that I watched. Like I said, I caught an episode. I think I caught like episode 100 and something on like cartoon or on Adult Swim one night. And I woke up and I just saw this guy with this big old sword. And I was like, dude, have you ever heard of this show? And he's like, describe it. And so I described it to him. And he was like, oh, yeah, that's Bleach. He was like, well, you watched this episode. And I was like, yeah. He was like, we need to start at the beginning. So I caught up with that show. It was 366 episodes. And I caught up with that show watching it on YouTube because this is before streaming services. So I was watching YouTube. And it was like YouTube part 1 of 3. So you had to watch like each one and hope that, the same person recorded all 3 sections or else you just missed out.
Yeah.
And I think we ended up watching like 5 to 6 episodes in Japanese dub with Spanish subtitles. So I don't know what the hell is going on.
There you go.
With those, I was just like, all I can use is context clues and look at the
So you couldn't understand anything they were saying.
No, not at all.
That's hilarious.
That's the real fan shit right there.
Yeah, I was just watching. I was like, well, it looks like they got into a fight. I think that they said something mean to him. And
this guy's pissed at that guy. This person did that. Oh, he stole something. He's running. Oh.
Exactly. Yeah, but then again, I tell my mom all the time, I'm like, obviously I got it from her because she used to, growing up, she would watch those Telemundo channels and come up with her own stories. And I'm like, Mom, I don't think that that's what they said. And she's like, no, she's mad at Miguel. I'm like, okay, I guess every Spanish male's name is Miguel on this show because
she had her own, like you said, she had her own version going on.
Exactly. I guess maybe that's where I got it from.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's where I got it from. But yeah, so I started off with Bleach. Then I got back into obviously the classics. Dragon Ball Z, the Naruto's, the big, kind of heavy hitters that everybody really liked. And like I said, since then, I think I sat down the other day and all the ones that I could remember, I think that I've watched 80 shows now, at least 80 plus shows that I've watched in anime. And people are like, oh, well, you would think that you watched a lot more. I'm like, dude, I'm sure that I've forgotten more shows that I've watched than I can remember. So
80 sounds like a lot of shows to me.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think so. Especially when you think about like, One Piece right now. I'm current on One Piece, and that's at like 1,014.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's like you take something like Dragon Ball. The comic went for like 10 years. I'm not like an anime guy, but I have seen some, and I remember the ones that were popular when I was a teenager. So like, of course, everybody in the United States has seen Dragon Ball. Yep. And actually, when I was a kid, we didn't have like cable or satellite or anything like that. We had just like antenna. And so Dragon Ball, like the original Dragon Ball series, you could watch it if you'd get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So every once in a while I would catch it. I mean, I couldn't, dedicate myself as a young man to get up at 6 o'clock every day to watch Dragon Ball, but I did enjoy it when I caught it.
I did that with Sailor Moon early in the morning.
Oh, I forgot about that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sailor Moon. Yeah,
Sailor Moon was huge.
yeah, it was. It was. Yeah,
It's dope.
and Sailor Moon really gave way to like that whole like heroine, anime genre where you don't I think it paved the way for like modern day Frozen. It was like that whole like I don't need a man, but if there's one there, then I'm down.
I'll
for
take
it,
him,
you
but
know
I
what
don't
mean?
need him.
Exactly.
Well, I remember it.
So
Anime is some. I was thinking about what is it about anime that makes it so attractive to people, and I was also thinking about what is it about anime that turns people off. Because for my my wife, for instance, she won't watch 2 seconds of a Japanese cartoon. She says, "Turn that off. This is terrible." She said, "I hate this."
yeah,
I mean, she won't even give it a chance. She hates it. She just hates the way it looks. She hates. And I can see, so I was thinking, what is it that turns people off? And I can see what would turn a person off, just like a normal person watching it, because it can be really cutesy pie, the graphics, the faces that they make. And it's very melodramatic. So when they express themselves emotionally, they really take their time and they'll zoom in on the person crying and they're making like sounds. And they really, there's absolutely no question what any character is feeling at any time. They make it very clear.
Yeah.
And the pacing of an anime is slow, I think, compared to the stuff that is on American TV. I might be, you correct me if I'm wrong about that because you watch so much more than me. But especially when I'm thinking especially when I'm thinking about something like Dragon Ball, when I watched Dragon Ball growing up, and that show was slow. I mean, it took.
Yeah.
I think it's a meme probably just how long it takes anything to happen in that show. Like the classic situation where the planet's going to blow up, and they're fighting. They're like, "Well, there's only 5 minutes left until the planet explodes," and they fight for another 5 episodes for these 5 minutes to elapse.
It kind of depends on the show too, because anime, it's like you either have like a set length, like 12, 24 episodes, or it's like 1,000 episodes.
And anime is stylized, and it's stylized in a way where some people are going to love it, and some people are going to be turned off by it. So, the way that people move, the way they fight, it's got a style that some people are just not going to connect to.
Yeah,
and but if I'm thinking about. I'm comparing cartoons in the United States to anime, Japanese cartoons and stuff. The thing that I love about Japanese cartoons and anime is that the subject matter is much richer in anime. I mean, if you're going to watch cartoons in the United States, what are you going to watch?
Like your Simpsons, American Dad, Family Guy. Like it's either going to be kidsy or it's going to be those type shows. You know what I mean? You rarely find anything that's really just in the middle.
Yeah, you're watching an animated sitcom. But anime, you can watch any genre of story you could imagine is represented in anime. And as a young man or a young person who's watching, if you enjoy animation, you enjoy the artwork and the style and the music, but you want to see a story that's more mature and interesting, you don't have a choice. You have to watch anime. Some of the stuff when I was growing, Evangelion, my friends were watching that. Which actually I never made it all the way through, but I think it was a bunch of them. Like I remember seeing the tapes on somebody's shelf. I think I didn't make it through that.
Yeah, if it were tapes, there's only 24 episodes.
24, okay,
yeah, that's good.
I remember Ninja Scroll was big when I was a teenager. Now that one blew me away. Yeah, you remember that one?
Yeah, I do remember that one. Yeah,
that one blew me away a little bit because first of all, it's extremely bloody and violent. So it's like a teenager. That's freaking awesome already. And then you like seeing some woman's breasts falling out of her kimono, and you're like, "What am I watching? What is this Japanese? What is this? What is happening right now?" And I went through a phase where I was. The fun thing about you were talking about, like the stuff you'd find on the internet, especially when the internet was a lot younger. And you would just stumble onto weird websites where you could find like scans of a manga or something. Like I read Dragon Ball through scans on just some random website where someone had taken the time to go through and type in the English translation in place of all the Japanese text. Yeah. And I read Naruto
That's pretty cool.
Naruto that way too.
Okay.
Yeah. So you gave me a little bit of homework. I asked you what you were watching, and you said I've been watching Goblin Slayer, which I didn't make it to Goblin Slayer, but I did start watching Tokyo Revengers.
Okay.
I think I'm about 6-7 episodes in, something like that.
Hey, as long as I'm just glad because I know we originally talked about you were like, hey, I'll give some things a shot, and that's what my show is all about. Is I just love giving people a show, and if they can get a couple of episodes in and they enjoy it, then I'm like, job well done. That's exactly what I was looking for. So.
Well, I think it helps to accept a show or whatever on its own terms. Like, I can get past all of the. I mean, I don't know. I enjoy like the artwork and stuff like that, but I can get past things like that and just get into it. That stuff is not necessarily a stumbling block to me. But Tokyo Revengers is interesting, and it was, as I was saying, if you're a teenager and you want an interesting story, so this thing's it's not sci-fi. What would I call it? Maybe I have to call it sci-fi because it's not fantasy. There are no dragons flying around. But so if people don't know, this show, there's a young man, early 20s, I guess. And he's kind of directionless. He's not really doing anything. Like his place is trashed. He's sitting around watching TV. And he hears the news that his middle school. Now, I don't know the way the school grades, work out in Japan. But anyway.
They're a little bit different, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be. But his old girlfriend from back in school died. And it hits him hard. And then some things happen. Anyway, this guy ends up going back in time. It turns out he can go back exactly 12 years. Kevin, did you watch this too?
I did the opposite. I watched the first episode of Goblin Slayer, but I haven't watched it. So in my defense, I've been moving, and I've had a lot of stuff going on the past few days, so I haven't been able to.
Stop it. Excuses.
I know.
So anyway, this guy ends up being able to go back in time 12 years. And it turns into a whole thing where he's trying to prevent ultimately trying to prevent his this girl from dying. So it's like that's a wild story. So if you want to watch a story like that, and you don't want to watch a sci-fi movie, you've got no other choice but to watch anime. And anime is like a rich repository of all kinds of wild and crazy stuff because they have different. The Japanese have different cultural attitudes as well, so you get a different flavor. Just from that.
Yeah, agreed. And that show, first of all, I absolutely fell in love with that show from pretty much the beginning because to your point, I tell people all the time, and I say it on my show like all the time, and I even had a episode that I did this season, maybe a couple episodes ago, called "What's Anime?" And I basically talked about that, is the breakdown of, like you said, a lot of people look at anime and a lot of people look at it as like you said, it's just cartoons, but from Japan. But it's like realistically what it really is it's an animation style. So there's specific styles that Japanese, like you said, their culture that they kind of, manipulate and kind of push out. And like you said, there are depths to it, to the sense of, it's not just, like you said, it's not just a sitcom, but they do have sitcoms. They do have their Japanese sitcoms. There are slice of life genres. There are, musicals. They have like everything that you could want and more. But it's because of the style and where it originates, where, like here, because to what you were just saying just a second ago, and that hit hard. And I've been telling everybody about this, and I was literally just went on a rant the other day about this on my show, my Valentine's Day special. But one of my favorite shows that Netflix just did, that's a Western, we would call it more of a Western adaptation of anime because it looks like it could be an anime, but you can tell because it originated like here in the States, they would consider more of a Western adaptation. But the show that I've been loving has been like Castlevania, which
that's great.
a lot of people here, they know Castlevania because of the game. But then when you sit down and you actually watch the show, and then you're like, okay, you're kind of putting two and two together. So it's something that you can connect with because you probably played it growing up. But then watching the actual show, it would make you feel like, because I have a lot of friends that don't necessarily like anime, but when I told them about Castlevania, they're like, but I love Castlevania. And I'm like, but I mean,
and it's clearly influenced by anime. Yeah, it has so much anime style to the show because I watched that first season of that show.
yeah. So I'm like, so you tell me that you don't like anime, yet you love Castlevania. Like they're like, dude, do you think it's going to do another season? I'm like, but you don't like anime. But I can give them I can give them a Tokyo Revengers, or I can give them a Goblin Slayer or Overlord or something, even if it's something that's somewhat similar. And they're like, nah, I can't get past it. I'm like, all right, dude, whatever. So, to each his or her own. But, I think that's the thing, is that there's a common misconception and I think that people get a lot of bad rap. I did an episode a couple seasons back where I talked about taboo questions in the anime community. And, one of the big taboos and the big turnoffs, unfortunately, with anime, and I said this last night on somebody else's show, is that I think that so much of anime, because of the culture and because of the style and just where it originates from, so much of it is so much fan service. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, is you automatically assume there's always going to be like, there's harems. Pretty much everything that's coming out right now is a harem or a reverse harem, where it's like 15 females who want this one guy. There's like these chicks walking around with big butts, unrealistic and unproportionated, breasts, this high, dreamy, pitchy voice. And most people look at that and they're like, I'm turned off about this because they're trying to push something on me that I don't necessarily want to watch. Like, I don't want to see, I don't want to see this 15, 16-year-old girl who's walking around built like, someone who's in their, mid-20s, you know what I mean? Like, she's blossomed and everything. I'm like, but everything isn't like that. You know what I mean? Like, every show isn't like that. So I don't agree with like people who want to like lump everything together. There is some of that. But again, you have to remember, like, this is a very sex depressed and very very much like oppressed country, you know what I mean? Like you put it out in your animation, you know what I mean? It's like you can go online, you can find anime, you can find just as much hentai as you can find anime, you know what I mean? Like it's there, like, so I think sometimes people just associate the two, and I think that I try to tell people all the time, don't do that, like, don't lump them together.
In a way, when you trash, like when you say, I don't like, quote, anime, it would almost be like saying, I don't like movies. It's like, well, what kind of movies do you not like? Oh, I just don't like movies. Yeah, it's like, well, there's science fiction, there's fantasy, you could watch a rom-com or a comedy, or you could watch an art movie, any genre you can imagine. And anime is like its own little movie industry. So any kind of story you could imagine, there are anime in that genre.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%. Like you said, you want to watch sci-fi, you need a dragon kick. There's literally a genre specifically dedicated to you, and that to me is one thing that I always try to tell people, especially like my friends, or if I'm dating somebody, or family, whoever. If somebody's like, yo, give me a show, the first thing that I ask is, what do you like? Because there's got to be something that you like already. Like, so if you're like, oh, well, I like sci-fi, I'm like, okay, well, specifically, do you like robots? No. Okay. Do you like this? Cool. Here's a list of 2 or 3 shows that fit into this. Do you like rom-coms? Like, a lot of people like slice of life stuff. I'm not a huge slice of life person. Yeah. And like slice of life, that whole like day in the life, I don't care about that. I deal with enough stress and situations that I have. Yeah,
that's too much like ordinary life. I want something entertaining. I don't need that.
Exactly. So, but like, if people are like, oh, I like rom-coms or I like sports anime, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, there's like 3 or 4 sports animes I can tell you about right now. And that's, volleyball, soccer, football, boxing. I got and pedaling, like bike riding. I got 5 of them right now off the top of my head that I can give you. So which one do you want?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Man, I would never. These things are all based, not all, I'm sure, but a lot of these are based on manga, and I would never do a manga about riding bikes because I'd have to draw bikes all the time. It's like if you did a manga about, I know there are mangas about band, like being in a band and playing guitar. Like, I don't want to draw drum kits three times every page. No way.
Exactly. Yep.
Like you said, you can read a comic, you can read a manga about being in a band. I know this exists. I've seen it.
Yeah.
One thing I like, I think the Japanese may have comics figured out much better than we do over here, because we got Batman and Superman, and they've been around for 80 years, whatever, 30s, 40s. And it's like the characters are never going to die, and different creators come in, they tell their stories, and they reboot the characters, and they never end. And I like the way the Japanese comics work. So one guy gets an idea, he writes the story, he draws it, he does it for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, whatever, until he's done with it, and then it's over. That makes for so much more compelling storytelling than the way American comics work.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's the whole situation that everybody, the back and forth that everybody's talking about right now, over there about how hard they're working a lot of these, these artists and stuff like that. Because it is very demanding in that role, because that's, I talked about this before. I can't remember how high it is, but that's literally one of their big exports right now, is literally anime and mangas. So there's a lot of countries, a lot of other people that literally are waiting from week to week, or episode to episode, chapter to chapter on these mangas, and they're pushing. A lot of these studios are pushing these producers. One of my favorite ones, so Tai Kubo, who's the creator of Bleach. I remember reading and listening to a story about him, and literally they came back. The company came back and said he wasn't on his deathbed, but he had got very sick because he was exhausted from writing page after page after page after page, and he was getting older. And they basically came back and was like, hey, so either you're going to finish this out and we're going to see it through to the end, or we'll just go ahead and give this to another writer that's going to change the story. And he basically took a leave of absence, got a little bit better or whatever. And then he came back and he was still writing. But even while he was in the hospital, he was literally still writing, because he was like, I'm not going to let anybody else in my story, the way that, I started it off. So you have dedicated, people that do these type things, but it's like, that's tough, because people sit down and watch an anime and you're like, man, that was 24 episodes. That was so good. I want more. It's like, but you don't think about how much time. And
oh my God, the effort, the money,
everything that had to go into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember playing with a camera when I was a kid doing a little animation, and it would take freaking forever to do 5 seconds. You could draw all day for 5 seconds. Click, 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 click.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The work. Kevin, what did you think about Goblin Slayer, by the way?
I wasn't super. I only watched the first episode. I'll have to watch a few more.
Listen, if you hated it, just say you hate it.
I didn't hate it.
What's the premise? I didn't watch Goblin Slayer.
This girl wants to be an adventurer. She's like a priest, so she goes out with this party. She's gonna slay goblins, and the goblins fuck them up.
Okay.
That's the first episode plot synopsis, basically.
I did actually get into. What you said you're loving that show right now, right, Matt?
Goblin Slayer?
Yeah. Or you didn't say you were loving it. You said you were watching it. What do you think about it?
Yeah. I like it. I think that this is one of those. Again, this appeals to more of the sci-fi people, more of that medieval, range. And I think that's where I deal. Like, that's probably close to my genre. Like, anything that has that old timey, medieval, goblins and orcs and, demons and all that stuff. Like, that's more of my realm. So I think that's why I'm a little bit biased towards this show. Like, to Kevin's point, it literally just follows a guy who absolutely hates goblins. His whole purpose and existence in his life is to kill goblins. Like, they're adventurers, and he basically goes through and, like, obviously you go to a guild, which again I love because it's very old timey, but it's like you go to a guild and they're like, hey, you're a high rank, we want to give you some high rank missions, and he's like, no, give me that mission right there. And they're like, well, that's like a copper, like that's like a very beginning. He's like, does it have goblins in it? And they're like, yeah, it's a whole nest of goblins. He's like, I'll take it. I'm like, dude, this dude there's obviously a reason as to why, but he just goes out of his way to go find these goblins. And even as he finds friends, like, his friends are like, hey, let's go, let's be friends. And he's like, I don't necessarily need friends. I just want to go kill goblins.
Yeah. Do you kill goblins? No. Why would we be friends? We got nothing to do.
Yeah, I'll have to watch a few more episodes. That first episode was just like the party getting killed off, and it was brutal. Oh man.
Yeah, and you know that the first episode. So I'm sure Kevin, you know exactly what I'm about to kind of allude to without necessarily alluding to.
Yeah.
But that first episode made a lot of people very uncomfortable because of some things that happened in that show. And it kind of starts off like that. It's just like, here it is, and you're like, whoa, hey, like,
Yeah.
you know.
That's go ahead.
I had no expectations going into it. I didn't know anything about it. I just asked Jason, you said you were watching 2 shows. So I just watched Goblin Slayer on YouTube earlier. And I was like, oh, hot damn. It starts off so nice. And they go to the game and just get killed.
Oh, it's the bait and switch.
Yeah. I was like, holy
well, it's
shit.
like any good Netflix show or HBO show. It's like they got to hit you with that stuff up front, and then you're hooked. Oh my God, what is this? What am I watching?
Yeah, and they do that, and then you're just kind of like, so then from there on out, I think that, to your point, and that's a problem that I think that's something that shows, to your point, like HBO, your Netflix, your Hulu's, those type of shows that have to hook you at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But I tell people all the time on my show, you have to give anime at least like 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah.
You have to give it that, because they start you off and they kind of throw you into a situation sometimes, and you're like, okay, well, I don't like this because I don't know what's going on. Well, it's like, well, give it the next episode and it's going to explain to you exactly what just happened. So
Tokyo Revengers was exactly like that, like you say, because when it first starts, things are happening and I'm watching. It's like I don't know what is going on. I can't remember exactly where the first episode ended, but I'm pretty sure by the end of the first episode, I'm still like, I don't know what's happening. And then they do then he goes back in time, and he doesn't even look like the same person, and they don't really explain it for a while. And so by the time I'm about 3 episodes in, it's like, okay, I've got a grasp on what's going on, who the main characters are, and then it starts to make sense. And I think the pace of anime may be, and you're more of the expert than I am. I haven't watched nearly as much as you have, but I think the pace of anime lends itself to that as well, where, like you said, give it a little time. Don't instantly, watch one 30-minute episode and be like, this is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. I'm just going to watch something else.
Yeah, no, and the crazy part about it is, it's like, as much as I say that, I've done that before. Like, I've watched the show and I'm like, I don't necessarily like it. And then, like, I'll sit back and I'll watch it again, because obviously either people will keep telling me about it, or like the way that I theme my show, I'll come up with a topic. So I'll say, like, let's say I was doing an episode on, I got an episode that I'm gonna end up doing where it's basically like Sherlock this, and it's basically just anime that are based off of like crime solving anime.
Okay.
So I'll watch a show and I'm like, okay, well, this show fits, and this show fits. And then I'll sit down and I'll actually binge watch all 3 of those shows to make sure that, I know, obviously what I'm talking about, but then too, so I can kind of talk to it. But there have been shows where I'm like, oh, this show would fit. And then I sit down and I start watching. I'm like, I know that it's going to fit because it literally is everything that I'm talking about, but I just cannot get into it right now in episode 1. And then it's like episode 2, episode 3, and I'm like, gosh, I just want to get to the good parts. I can talk about this show. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now it's better, or it goes the opposite way and I just dislike it the whole way. But I'm like, I'm still going to watch it. Even though I don't necessarily like it, I need it for this show. I'll still watch it, and then I'll kind of give an opinion on it. So
that's tough when you got to slog through something that you just hate. I got to do it for the show, man. I got to watch it. I mean, if you log on to Netflix right now and you just close your eyes and start hitting buttons, chances are whatever you click on is going to be terrible. I mean, there are lots of terrible movies.
Oh yeah.
And anime has to be the same. There's so many of them. Most of them are probably not that good.
Yeah, there was a show. The thing about anime to me that kills me is usually the ending, because you can tell when a show or a studio is trying to like rush a show,
right? Because
they either have to jump off of that program or that project and go to something else. But there's a show that I watched that has a really good premise. It's called Batoon.
Okay.
And it's like a really good premise. Basically, long story short, it's an online game that you use bombs. Kind of like, think about like an online Bomberman.
Okay.
But you're using like the bombs to like, kill other players or whatever inside of this virtual reality. Well, what ends up happening is like in real life, these people get transferred, not just kids, they're people, whoever plays this game, or even people that don't play the game. You have an opportunity to put somebody's name down on a list and submit it, to the powers that be, if you will, that says like, hey, I recommend this person, go to this island because they've done horrible things. And they go to this island, and literally it's like Batum, but in real life. So they're really using like real life bombs to like kill each other on this island.
Oh, shoot.
And so from a premise standpoint, you'd be like, dude, that sounds dope. Like, it doesn't sound dope, obviously, because people, killing each other with bombs.
No, that's
but,
an interesting
they're
premise.
like,
Yeah, if you're the name of the book, it's not dope. But if I'm watching a show about it, yeah, that's pretty good.
right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like that. But then when I watched the show, like the show was so rushed. It was the voice acting didn't really match up with what you would expect, like characters to look like. It was rushed.
I'm glad you said that about the. I think another thing about anime that gives it a particular flavor that turns some people off is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but like I think probably it takes longer to say something in English than it does in Japanese. So I'm thinking like when you're watching a dub of an anime. The language is going to sound a little weird because they got to slide it all into that little space where the character's mouth is moving. And it comes across unnatural sometimes. And I think it might just be, and I might be wrong, but I think it might just be because English takes longer to say than Japanese.
Yeah, well, that and it's usually a comment. I can see that. I never even thought about it like that. I would also say that the other thing is 9 times out of 10 is because depending on the show, especially older shows, that's why I usually try to recommend people. I usually try to recommend older shows to people or modern shows that are more upbeat and have a specific style. But if you recommend older shows to people, there's usually a dubbed out. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the big thing is because a lot of people struggle with that whole dub versus sub thing.
Yeah.
And so when you tell people like, hey, you should watch this show, but it's subtitled, people are naturally like, no, I can't do it because I'm not going to be able to read and I'm not going to be able to watch it at the same time. I don't like this. I can't do it, So that's another thing I think that turns a lot of people off.
I never used to use subtitles, and I had a girlfriend a million years ago who watched everything with subtitles on. Just because. I don't know why. She just did it.
I like subtitles too.
Yeah, well, ever since that time, I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because I'm getting old. I can't hear anymore. Like, I got kids in the house and they make noise. So, like, now I can keep the volume. Because, like, when you're watching a movie, the freaking volume is fine 1 second. And then the action kicks in and I got to ride that volume knob the whole time while I'm watching the movie.
It's either set up for CC or it's set up for, like, movie theater.
Dynamic.
You can't have anything in between. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I got subtitles on all the time. But I say that because I kind of enjoy listening to the Japanese actors and just reading the subtitles at the bottom of the screen in English.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I just like picking up little bits of language.
And that's what I was about to say. There's a lot of anime because if like I know, watching Dragon Ball Z, if I had to watch Dragon Ball Z subbed, I would absolutely pull my hair out because there's in no way, shape, or form does Goku need to sound like a little girl. Like he's like, oh my God. I'm like, bro, what is this? Like, I need you to sound like a man, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I need you to sound like a man. Like, reach down, grab a pair.
Oh man, is there any show in the history of the world where someone yells more than Dragon Ball? Where they're just scene after scene, and people just
every time. And that's why I said there are certain things like that. I can't. I have a real hard time, and that's the problem. And that really what that is, that's more of a shonen problem because anytime that you watch shonen anime, the main character is always a crybaby or they always scream for no reason. And I'm like, yeah, because think about it. You got Naruto's shonen, you have Asta, if you've watched or heard of Black Clover. That's shonen. You've got Dragon, you've got Goku and everybody on there. They're shonen. All those characters usually fit like that mode of like you're a crybaby at some point because they go through that same cycle, right? That's why everybody says that a lot of those characters are recycled. They go through that. I'm strong, then I'm weak. I cry because I'm weak, and then I get stronger, and now I'm more confident, and then eventually I fight somebody who's stronger than me, and I'm weak again, so I cry. It's like this vicious cycle that they all kind of go through.
You just explained the entire Dragon Ball Z series. That's the whole
Exactly.
plot over and over again. And somehow Akira Toriyama just has some magic where he makes it work. I don't know why it was as big as it was when it's literally, like you said, oh, wait, there's somebody stronger than me. Let's train. I beat him.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second. Somebody else is stronger than me. I better train. And by the end, like they just gave up the number system at some point because it's like,
oh yeah, of course.
how many trillions of can your power level be before you just don't want to say it anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was the rumor, and I still haven't. I talked about this last night, and the guy was like, "Oh, I haven't seen that on paper," which I was like, "That's fair," because I feel like maybe it's a rumor. So now I'm just saying it's a rumor. But the rumor was, until I find it, the rumor was, Dragon Ball Z was actually supposed to only be Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball Z was supposed to end when Goku and Frieza fought.
Right.
Yeah.
I have heard the same thing. I can't remember where I heard it. It may be complete crap, but I've heard that before.
Yeah, because that's why when they came back after that saga, the way they said that the reason why that was, they were going to stop it, but obviously the supply and demand, and everybody was talking about it so much, it was so popular they couldn't walk away from it. But they said that that's why after that arc, that arc, that's why you never saw a scanner again.
Right.
Was because, to your point, he was supposed to meet Frieza. Frieza was supposed to pretty much kill him. They were going to sacrifice themselves, go out together, ultimate good guy versus ultimate bad guy. And then that was supposed to be the end. Well, if he's the strongest, then there's nothing that's there to be able to assess how strong the next person is. So that's why they went away from the scanners.
Right.
Was because they didn't need the scouters anymore, because everything was based off of Frieza. It was supposed to be, once you hit Frieza was God level. Nobody was supposed to be stronger. But now they've got people who are so much stronger that they had to get away from it. So
I mean, I believe that 100%. And honestly, you watch a show and it's like, from a spectator point of view, I want a show to last exactly as long as it needs to and then just end, because some shows just keep going and keep going. But from the point of view of the studio and the people who made it, they finally got a hit and they want to make that. I get that too. They want to make that money as long as they can. They got a hit. Who knows when the next one's going to come around, especially if you're the creator of a show. If you're the guy who made Naruto, I don't know, something like that blows up, that may be the biggest thing you do in your entire life. Yeah, so true. Part of you is going to want to just ride it out as long as you possibly can.
No, I agree. And I mean, because shoot, I do the exact same thing, man. And that's why, and that's the other thing too, is like you said, that's why a lot of people talk about some of these shows that come out and they're like, well, this one isn't great, but it's like, realistically, if you do it right and you're able to kind of walk away from that unscathed, and it's not just horrible, it doesn't just flop. If you're able to walk away from it, I mean, there are studios left and right that are always looking for new content writers and producers to come over. So it's almost like you're kind of building your resume when you put out a show too. All you needed to do is just not flop. Right. As long as it doesn't flop, there's always going to be somebody that's going, even if it's somebody here, like, in the States, that's like, because that's the one thing, that's the claim to fame right now and the shout out that Netflix is getting right now, because Netflix is literally getting behind this whole, like, dude, anime is so big. We have so much anime on our platform. Why not start doing our own version of this? So they're bringing in a lot of these, even though it's still, again, technically made here, so they're calling it Western adaptations. Right. They're still going out and trying to find a lot of these producers and a lot of these, people who have worked on these big projects before, and bringing them over and just saying, hey, look, I can pay you, something that I think is a little bit more decent over here for you to come out with a show that's going to be here. And they're like, oh, I mean, nobody else wants me over here because of that one show. And then before you know it, it's, it's a supply and demand thing. We want it. People want it. We'll bring you over here and pay you that money if we need to,
Absolutely. And manga is doing gangbusters. Like, I think they're just destroying American comics. American comics they're not doing great right now. They're having lots of problems, lots of trouble. And they don't sell anything like that. I mean, back in the 90s, it wasn't unusual for a series of like the X-Men or something to sell millions every month. But now a good series might do 100,000, maybe. So
well, and
comics have
two,
fallen
it's like
way off.
baseball. It's like baseball. You're sitting on old money at this point. Like that's the reason why you were able to push out these Marvel movies and stuff. You've been playing with house money this whole time, you know. So now when you actually want to do something big, it's like, oh well, hey, all that money that we made back in the day from all these comic books, let's put that towards the movies.
It seems like the people running comics, and like I'm not an expert. I'm not really into comics exactly, but like it seems like the people who run comics, they just don't know. They either don't know what they're doing and they shouldn't be there, whoever's in charge, or they're just using goals and like get rich quick and short term schemes instead of trying to take care of their properties. It seems ridiculous.
Well, and like you said too, you can only do so much with those characters. You can only rewrite the storyline and making this person jump into this universe so many times before eventually it's just like, all right, like now you mean to tell me that somehow, you know, Black Panther decided to join up with the X-Men for whatever reason to go take down Thanos? It's like, hold on. None of this matches, or to go take down Evil or go take down Venom. It's like, oh, okay, hold on. How did all three of these
how many stories can you write about the X-Men, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man? My God. Spider-Man been around since the 60s. Every story that you could tell about Spider-Man already been told. Now they're getting into crazy stuff.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to do.
I would actually pay to, side note, I would actually pay to watch a comic book of Black Panther joining the X-Men to go fight Venom. That would be amazing. I'd be down for that.
I'd do that. It'd be great.
Hey, people will watch it.
By the way,
I did that Marvel stuff.
Oh, sorry. I did actually watch, because I've always heard people, you know, the Cowboy Bebop live act. I didn't watch it, but everybody was crapping on it. So I guess the live action version was not very good. But I've never seen the anime, so I actually did go back and watch about 3 episodes of Cowboy Bebop, and I can see what all the fuss was about.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop is dope.
Yeah. Just the introduction to that show is incredible.
I like it. Like, and that's the thing that like killed a lot of people about me, because like people know like that's probably my second favorite anime. And so like literally I can't tell you how many times it was probably at least 3 or 4 people the minute that it dropped that was like, dude, have you watched Cowboy Bebop yet? And I was like, no, not yet. And they're like, dude, I don't think you're gonna like it. I know it's your favorite show. You shouldn't watch it because if you watch it,
don't do it.
Dude, I'm like, I'm gonna watch it. It's like I said, it's my jam. You know, it's my show.
You got a show called Anime Talk. You have got to watch.
Exactly. I was like, I got to see it to fruition. Like, I'm also one of those type of guys. I paid it, and Cowboy Bebop. First of all, it has a whole like sentimental value to me because it was one of my first shows I kind of watched with one of my really good friends named Manny. So I love the show. Like, I love the show. And then when I watched the live action, I was like, honestly, it was fairly entertaining. Like I didn't understand where people were coming from, and I'm like, dude, I like anime. I like this anime. So I don't know what people are talking about. I understand there are certain things, but the simple fact of like how they were able to create the whole environment and show like the outer space scene and what it looked like.
Right.
Like I was like, that was pretty dope. Like they did a really good job on that, because I was very curious. Because to your point, when you're doing a live action, it's kind of tough because some things don't transfer over well.
I was watching the anime Cowboy Bebop, and I can't remember if it was maybe the second episode. And there's a character, he's chasing after this dog, and they go to this pet shop, and the woman who runs the pet shop has a turtle on her head for no reason that I can see. And when I saw that, I thought, how do you translate that? For some reason, I accept it in an anime. I don't know why. I have no idea why my brain accepts it in cartoon form. But if you were watching a live action version of that show and they did that exactly the same way, you could never accept that, could you?
Yeah, there's something about animation where you can just let stuff like that fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get away. And I mean, that's the thing about this. And I mean, even when people, because I've told people and I brought up the analogy, I'm like, okay, so you like an ex of mine, like she really liked Good Doctor. She loves Good Doctor. Like she watches it like through and through. And I'm like, okay, so you mean to tell me you can sit down and you can watch this whole thing about this fake doctor with all these problems that he ends up running into, you know what I mean? And all this other stuff. But you can't like use your imagination to watch, something that's, something that you call as fake. I'm like, you do realize you're watching something fake too, right? Like it's not this guy that's sitting there with, I think he had, it wasn't Asperger's, but I think he had like autism or something like that. I'm like, like that's I mean, it's not fake. I mean, I'm sure there are doctors out there. And, hey, kudos to the doctor if there is someone out there that does this. But
I know what you're talking about.
It's not this guy. He's an actor. He's an actor. He's not. Yeah. He's not a real person out here performing surgery. So you're using your imagination here, but because it's animation style, and because, like you said, there's flying cars, or this guy got hit so hard that he broke a wall. Like you're like, no, that's so fake. I'm like, okay.
Well, things like that, things that are every bit as fake as that happen in movies all the time. But there's something. It's not as in your face in some way. So it doesn't strike you the same way. But yeah, fake. I just have to, when I watch movies and stuff and something doesn't work, I just kind of mentally erase it. Like I create my own version of a show or a movie, and the stuff I don't like, I just kind of edit that out of my head canon version.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel it.
All right. If you had to, all right, you said Cowboy Bebop was your second favorite. What's your number one favorite anime of all time? Do you have one? I mean, that's a tough question for me, because people ask me my favorite anything. It's like, I don't know.
My brain doesn't really work that way, but sometimes I have a few things I can think of.
Yeah.
Well, mine is fairly simple, because I've always gone, in my mind, up until recently, I've always gone back and forth with Cowboy Bebop and another show. And so it finally took me the other day. I sat down and I was like, how many times have I watched Cowboy Bebop, and how many times have I watched this show? And then I was like, I got to by default start saying that this is my number one. My favorite show of all time is probably YuYu Hakusho.
Okay. The Spirit Detective, yeah.
Yeah, The Spirit Detective. That's probably my favorite show. I've probably watched that show. I couldn't count on. I would literally put that show on, and that's another case in point. That's another one that I can only watch dubbed. I cannot watch that show subbed. And the main reason, and it's funny because everybody, my best friend who kind of got me into, he's like a second dad to me, but the one that got me into anime, he literally was like, it's crazy because it's not that you don't like the show because of the main character's voice. Honestly, it's because of Kuwabara's voice. Because on the dub, Kuwabara has that like raspy. He's like, you're scared. He has that voice. But on the dub, on the sub version, he talks regular. Like he's like, oh, you're a Meshi, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't like that. You literally are this rough, raspy voice character. And even though you're a side character, I can't watch this show because you don't sound like yourself. So yeah, that's probably my number one show. And now that you said that, I'm probably gonna put it on later tonight, just because I'm just gonna have it playing in the backfield while I'm playing some Dying Light or something like that.
Yeah, personally, I've never watched YuYu Hakusho. I need to watch it.
Well, that show is almost like a perfect test case of all the advantages of watching anime. Because try to imagine making a movie like that. First of all, be a nightmare.
Yeah.
You can do it as a cartoon easily, and it's wild. It's like a combination of detective work and like this fantasy afterlife sort of mishmash. It's wild and it's bizarre, and it's got all that awesome anime stuff in it.
And see, I didn't know, and that was the part that really killed me, because it was like a couple of years ago. I think I was still living in Vegas. I live in Tennessee now, but I was still living in Vegas. So that was at least maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It took me a while. I didn't even know that there was continuation after the Dark Tournament.
Sometimes you say you like something, but then when you do the math, you're like, well, what do I actually go back to the most? That's your favorite. Yeah. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, so I think we'll call it there. Why don't you tell the audience where they can find? I mean, it sounds. I almost feel silly telling people, here's how you can find my show, because the podcasts are like the easiest thing in the world to find. Yeah. But remind the people of the name of your show and where they can check it out.
Yeah, awesome. Like I said, appreciate you guys having me on. Again, like I said, name is Matt St. Jack. You can find me. My show is called Anime Talk. It's anime space talk with an exclamation point to differentiate myself from the other one. But you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Anime Talk 12. So that's all together though. Anime Talk and the numbers 1 and 2, Anime Talk 12. New episodes drop every Monday, and you can find me, like I said, anywhere that you get your podcast fixed. So at Anime Talk, an exclamation point.
Awesome, cool. Perfect. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Mr. Matt St. Jack. He's a really fun guy to talk to. He knows his stuff. He's an anime fan, and you can hear his enthusiasm in the interview. So I really enjoyed talking to him. And if you don't watch anime and you want to get into it, I'm no expert, but try out some Cowboy Bebop or try out some Naruto. Any of the shows maybe that we discussed. What did he say? The Spirit Detective.
YuYu Hakusho.
YuYu Hakusho. That's a good one. Give it a try.
I mean, any of the big ones, Evangelion. You got Samurai Champloo, Fully Cooley.
Samurai Champloo is great.
Yeah, I love that show.
Ooh,
oh, man.
Come on, get up, get down with the sickness.
This is the video of the guy doing that in the karaoke.
Of singing that song karaoke?
Oh,
That's the best line. I love it.
I'm pulling this up, but I'm not going to show it to you right this second. I'll show it to you when we're done.
Come on, get up, get down with the sickness. Come on, get up, get down with the sickness. Come on, get up, get down with the sickness. Open up your hate and let it flow into me.
Oh, where is it? It's the greatest video of all time.
That's so good. Oh my God! How can you even do that? Not the karaoke guy. I'm talking about Disturbed, but it's perfect. It's the only thing I know by them.
Well, it's great too because that guy picked that song, having never really sung it, thinking, "Oh yeah, I can do that," and then you don't realize that part's harder than you think it is.
Have you ever done that where you do a song on karaoke and when you get up there and start singing like, "Oh, I don't know how to do this."
Yeah.
I did that with all my exes live in Texas. All I knew was the chorus, but I didn't realize that until I was up there. It's like, oh my God, I don't know how to sing the verses.
Yep.
So stupid. So I've been going down the musical rabbit hole now for months. I have periods of time where I'm always listening to shows and YouTube videos and stuff, but I go through periods of time where I get back into music. I'm like, oh, I forgot about this band. I forgot about this song. I love this song. I love that song, blah, blah, blah. And when I see a song I like, I love to listen to cover versions.
Yeah.
So I'll look for the cover version of whatever. And you'll either find, you'll find both. You'll find fantastic covers that you like just as much as the original song. You'll find a lot of middling covers that are sort of okay and like the quality of the audio is bad and whatever.
Yep.
But you also find these wonderful gems. Not just bad covers, but covers that are bad in a really special way. I actually posted this link on Twitter, but I didn't really explain myself. I just kind of put a link out. And I said, this is why YouTube should exist. And the link was a band playing a Sounds song.
Oh, yeah.
And they were they were kids. What? 14 years old, something like that. Just a bassist, a singer, a drummer, and actually it's beautiful because they're these young kids, they're getting together, they're learning how to play music, and they're just playing a song they like.
Yeah.
Which I'm not really, I mean, it is funny. Don't get me wrong. It's so bad that it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But the beauty of just these kids like getting together and practicing music, I love that. And it's nostalgic for me because,
for sure.
we grew up playing music and stuff. Well, not grew up playing music exactly, but when we were older, we've
done our fair share of terrible covers.
Sure. And that's part of it.
They're just not on YouTube.
Yeah, you're going to be terrible. Yes. Oh, of course. That's part of it. But it was so bad. It was fun to listen to on that level where you're just enjoying, oh, how could you do that? Oh my gosh. Listen to how off. Oh, listen to how that drum fill was 2 seconds later than it should have been. So, oh my gosh, the guitarist messed up the part. The guitar is too loud. Oh, it's just everything about it. It's so bad that I loved it. So maybe I'll put if I can find that link, I'll put that in the show too, and you can enjoy it with
I think
me.
you should. That'd be dope.
Listen, I don't do it to crap on these kids. I have all respect for the kids playing this music. I'm not making fun of them.
I love this stuff too, and it's from a place. I mean, it's from a place of empathy. We've done it.
That's I feel your pain. Oh my God. I wanted to play after I listened to that, I wanted to play music so bad. I wanted to jump on a drum kit and play. I don't even know how long it's been since I've played the drums.
Yep.
Anyway, that's going to be the show. Listen. Oh my God, it's been a good one. Ooh, wah. It's been a good show. Thank you for sticking around. Look, we like to have a lot of fun. Go on YouTube right now. Watch all right, don't even watch them. Just go to every episode on YouTube and click the like button and then go in the comments and say something nice about the show. And then subscribe to the channel.
True.
Hit the bell for notifications, and then tell all your friends to do the same because we need to get as many followers on YouTube as possible. The YouTube channel is growing, but when you're first starting, it grows a lot slower than you'd like it to.
True.
So thanks for listening to the show. If you listen to us on Spotify, give us a rating. We'd appreciate it. If you follow us on YouTube, follow the show and comment. We'd appreciate that. And listen, I hope you all have a great week. Bye.